On the matter of the bill that just came before the United States Senate, Mr. President, and for a few days, we will continue to debate legislation to fight crime and restore dignity to its survivors. I thank the Majority Leader for scheduling floor action on the Justice for Victims of Trafficking Act. This important bill is authored by our Assistant Majority Leader, Senator Cornyn from Texas. Human trafficking is a serious crime that is too often overlooked in its various forms, which include both labor trafficking and sexual servitude. It causes drastic harm to its victims. A form of modern-day slavery, human trafficking includes both adults and children, as well as non-citizens and citizens of our country. Experts tell us it's not limited to big cities or our nation's courts, but stretches across whole nation, even to the rural parts of our country, including my Midwest. Indeed, it happens every day, everywhere in this country. The Judiciary Committee met 2 weeks ago to hear testimony from a victim's advocate, a law enforcement official, and a sex trafficking survivor about the challenges that we face in fighting human trafficking. One witness, a criminal investigator from my state of Iowa, working for our Democratic Attorney General, Tom Miller, told us about a 20-year-old from my state who in December was abducted and forced into sexual servitude. We have made progress in curbing human trafficking since the passage in 2000 of the Federal Trafficking Victims Protection Act, a measure that I supported at that time. But there is still much work that remains to be done on this front. So this bill before the Senate now takes a creative and a comprehensive approach to what is a pervasive and very troubling problem. The measure has been endorsed by over 200 groups, and it passed the Senate Judiciary Committee without a dissenting vote. The centerpiece of this bill is its creation of a new fund called the Domestic Trafficking Victims Fund, which will be used to support a host of programs and services for human trafficking and child pornography survivors. The fund will be financed not by taxpayers' dollars, but by fines collected from individuals convicted of human trafficking and human smuggling crimes, making it deficit neutral. If enacted, this bill also will equip law enforcement with new tools to fight trafficking. For example, it would make it easier for state law enforcement officials to wiretap human trafficking suspects without federal approval. It also would expand the categories of persons who can be prosecuted for human trafficking. In addition, it clarifies that child pornography is a form of human trafficking. This bill takes an extremely thoughtful and extremely comprehensive approach, tackling not just the supply of human trafficking victims, but also the demand for these victims. Tackling the problem on both fronts is something that the Nonpartisan Congressional Research Service tells us is absolutely necessary if we are to successfully curb human trafficking. If enacted, this bill will ensure that both the trafficker and the buyer will be prosecuted for their crimes. We had an open and productive markup of this bill. I offered an amendment which was accepted by voice vote, clarifying that federal grant resources can be used to meet the housing needs of trafficking victims and offer training on the effects of sex trafficking to those who serve runaway, homeless, and at-risk youth. This amendment also updates the reauthorization language for the cyber tip line of the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children to ensure that child trafficking is specifically mentioned as a form of internet-related child exploitation. Finally, this amendment would require the Interagency Task Force to monitor and combat trafficking to identify best practices to prevent human trafficking. Senator Blumenthal from the state of Connecticut also offered an amendment based on a bill that he and Senator Kirk filed earlier this year, which was accepted in committee by a voice vote. Their bill, S575, known as the HERO Act, acronym HERO, provides authorization for a program at the Department of Homeland Security that trains wounded warriors to assist in the effort to locate missing children. I'm proud to be a co-sponsor of the bill now before the Senate. I commend Senator Cornyn, the lead sponsor of this measure, for his efforts to refine the bill and build such a substantial, very bipartisan coalition supporting it. I hope that we will see the same bipartisan cooperation and support on the floor as we consider amendments. I look forward to a vote on this bill as soon as possible. At this time, I ask unanimous consent, Mr. President, to include support letters for S-178 from various organizations in the record. And I also want, I'll wait.
Without objection.
I also want to take this opportunity to thank Rights for Girls, that's an organization, Shared Hope International, another organization, the Polaris Project, and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, among many other supporters of the bill, for their effort in assisting our refinement of this legislation so it could move forward in this manner.